swear or affirm to testify truthfully in this case in penalty of law?
Yes.
Good. How are you doing, sir? Good afternoon. You can sit down, sir. That's fine.
Good afternoon, Mr. Marks.
Good afternoon.
Would you please state your full name for the record?
Richard Edward Marks.
And Mr. Marks, where do you live?
I live in Hollywood.
Would you tell us a little bit about your educational background, sir?
I'm a product of the public school system in Los Angeles, and I went to UCLA undergraduate, and I'm a graduate of the UCLA School of Law.
When did you graduate from UCLA School of Law?
I graduated in 1973, and I've been an officer of the courts since then, almost 50 years.
Where do you work?
I work at my own law firm, Richard Marks and Associates.
What is Richard Marks and Associates?
It is a transactional entertainment law firm, and we represent individuals, writers, directors, actors, books, but authors. But mainly we represent producers who are developing a product, if you will, to be produced and then exploited on television, features, streaming, things like that.
When you say a transactional law firm, what do you mean by that?
What I do is make deals. They're transactions. I'm a deal guy. So my whole practice, all these decades, has been about getting to yes. How do you make a deal? And then how do you get it documented so people sign it and then are able, it's clear enough that it can be administered and people can know what to do after you've made the deal.
Specifically, what types of clients do you work with?
Well, as I said, I work with all kinds of clients, but my bigger clients and the bulk of my practice is representing producers who produce, they develop and they produce content for exploitation.
Are there any particular clients that you can identify?
Yeah, I've been working for a long time with ITV, which is a huge British company with worldwide reach in entertainment. They produce The Voice, Love Island, and right now I've done all the development legal work on a miniseries that's about to shoot in France and England, starring Michael Douglas as Benjamin Franklin. It's based on a novel that we optioned. I helped them option years ago. Then scripts were written for the 8 hours. Then Michael Douglas was engaged, the director was engaged, and I do all those contracts, and that's ITV. Another one of my big clients is Village Roadshow. They're an Australian company. They partner with Warner Brothers and they produce movies like Matrix, Aquaman, Scooby-Doo. Right now, I am working on a television series for them, doing the legal production, and before that it was development, but the production legal work on a reboot of the old College Bowl show, where two colleges come together with teams and answer questions, and here they're going to win scholarships. And the hosts are Peyton Manning and Eli Manning. So that's currently what I'm working on for Village Roadshow.
Any other clients?
And I would say my third big client is a company called Media Rights, MRC, and they produce movies and TV shows. Recently, I've done a lot of work for them. They are finishing up a miniseries that I'm doing the legal work on for Apple, starring Billy Crudup, We just finished a miniseries for them called Terminal List with Chris Pratt. That's for Amazon. And we recently finished a miniseries doing the legal deal making for MRC on a show called The Shrink Next Door, which is aired. It starred Will Ferrell and Paul Rudd. And then I can't leave out my longest client, which is the producers of Bosch for Amazon. It's got to be 9-10 years ago when we went into Amazon. They had never produced a series, and we negotiated a deal for Michael Conley's book series, and we cast Titus Welliver as Bosch. They wouldn't order a series, they would only order a pilot. And now, in the next few days, what I call the 8th season, but which is the first season of the spinoff, will be available on IMDb TV instead of on Amazon, but Amazon owns IMDb TV. And we're right now writing the 9th season. So I've had this long run with this one particular series.
Can you tell the jury a little bit about the types of deals that you work on for these clients?
Well, when you think of a series or a motion picture, and you see the credits, there's hundreds of credits there. And every one of those people, you have to make a deal with them, and you have to paper it so that they sign it. And you know what to pay them, and what is there a guild involved, a union? What are their services? And what I do is all of that, soup to nuts, many times. Sometimes I work with in-house counsel or other attorneys, and we split up the work. But basically, you want to produce a movie or a show. You might option a book. I do that deal. You might hire a writer. Then you might get a director. Then a line producer, a UPM, first AD. Then you start hiring your cast. Then you start making location deals. Then you start renting equipment and props and getting releases for photos you might show or for people who might end up on camera. And then when you're done shooting, you're making deals for merchandising and deals with distributors. And in the old days, might have been for a DVD or for merchandising, a doll. And so it's really what I do is make deals. And all deals, I've been doing it for almost 50 years, but they're all the same. They have elements of time, money, credit, rights, and perks. And I have approached deals that way so that I've made myself relevant. When I started out, there were 3 networks and big studios. And an attorney said, well, I'm a TV lawyer or I'm a feature lawyer. I just said I'm a transactional lawyer. And so I've been able to adapt and make deals with Netflix, Quibi, YouTube, you name it. I've made deals. I mean, I recently made a deal with Hellman's Mayonnaise for an actress who is going to be an influencer for them on the web. And it was it was a good payday for this actress, but that's the way I look at deals. I'm a deal maker, and that's my practice.
Mr. Marks, you testified that you have been working in the entertainment industry almost 50 years. How did you get started in the entertainment industry?
I got started in the entertainment industry by being born in Hollywood, and it's our town industry, if you will. And I've always been interested in it. And when I went to UCLA, I took all the film classes there were. And when I went to UCLA Law School, it was by design because, number one, I couldn't afford the big law school, so UCLA was a public school. It was virtually free. I went to UCLA Law School because if you want to practice entertainment law in Hollywood, you go to UCLA or USC. Those are the schools where you kind of create your contacts and your network. And at UCLA, they had some of the best professors who taught entertainment law related subjects. So I took copyright, trademark, entertainment contracts, if you will. I took everything entertainment related. And that's how I kind of built the foundation for then my after law school career.
What did you do after you graduated from law school?
Well, I wanted to do entertainment and transaction law, but I realized I could earn a little bit more money if I went into entertainment litigation, suing over copyrights and trademarks. And so I took the highest paying job that I could get out of law school, and was in 1973, and I did IP litigation, disputes over copyrights, trademarks, disputes over rights, things like that. And I was a low-level litigator, doing depositions or motions, certainly not sitting at the, examining witnesses, except it might be in a deposition. And I did that for about, it was my first year out of law school.
What did you do after that?
Well, after that, I kind of made a decision that being a litigator wasn't for me, that I wanted to make deals, that I wanted my career to be about getting to yes. And that involved a lot of, conflict sometimes, but the goal was to get to yes so that both parties could work together. Because the goal was working together and creating the TV show, not making the deal. The deal makers had to step away so that you closed the deal and then people could live with that deal. And so I went to a transactional law firm, and I was there a couple years, and I made deals.
What kind of projects did you work on when you transitioned into that deal-making role?
Well, this is, mid-1970s, and this law firm was hot, if you will. And some of my classmates were there. That's how I got the job. I had to take a cut in pay to go there. I'll never forget, I'm the second chair attorney in a big conference room at Fox, and we're trying to close a deal for our young client, George Lucas, to make a film called Star Wars, a Western space movie. And Fox would not give us the budget or the salary he wanted. And this is the God's honest truth. We said, okay, give us the merchandising. And famously, they gave us the merchandising because they didn't think there was value there. And that's how much our business has changed. While I was at my first transactional firm, we also worked for a client. His name is Sylvester Stallone. His claim to fame is that he was a character actor, but he had written a script that all the major stars wanted to play. They wanted to play the role Rocky. And he said, I will not sell this script unless I play Rocky. And no one was happy about that. And the deal we made was he got to play the role, but it was a very low budget, and he hardly had a dressing room. He hardly had any perks. He wasn't happy about it, but we were able to make up for that in the deals for Rocky 2, 3. And that's the type of deals. It was, at that entertainment transactional firm, we weren't representing major companies, if you will. We were representing artists, writers, directors, talent, like individuals. We weren't representing the companies I do now, like ITV or Village Roadshow.
How long were you at that law firm?
I was at that firm for a couple of years.
What did you do after that?
After that, I made a decision that I wanted to go in-house where the full-time business was making product, and it was very tied to production, and I wanted to move away from law firms at that moment, and my first in-house job was for the Ziegler Discount Agency, which was one of the premier literary agencies in town. We represented writers and books and estates of books. And at that time, in late 70s, early 80s, if you wanted to hire a writer or a book, or option a book, there were three places you went. You went to Swifty, which he's kind of famous, Swifty Lazar's Oscar parties, or you went to Swanee, H.L. Swanson, or you went to Ziggy, and I worked for Ziggy.
Did you work for any other companies in an in-house capacity as a deal maker?
Oh yeah. With Ziggy, we made deals for the book The Princess Bride. We did a lot of. We worked for William Goldman, that was his book and his screenplay, and it was a fabulous experience. But that firm was bought by ICM, a much bigger agency, and then I moved to Paramount. That's where I next went, and at Paramount I was the attorney on the series Cheers and the series Family Ties, which was the break for the young son, Michael J. Fox. And then I did something, because I have never said I'm just a TV lawyer. I'm a deal maker. I get to yes. And it's sort of unheard of, but I moved from network television doing the deals for Cheers and Family Ties. I moved to features at Paramount because you could earn a little more money in features. And I was married, and I had a child. And in features, I was assigned to do the development and production work for a producer, who's in this case Jerry Bruckheimer, and I also served. They had an overall deal with Eddie Murphy, so I did the legal work on his films like Beverly Hills Cop, Coming to America, things like that. And I was at Paramount about 4 years.
Where'd you go after Paramount?
After Paramount, I got this opportunity to head up business and legal affairs in the feature division for Jerry Weintraub's studio. Jerry was famous at the time for Karate Kid and Ocean's 11, and he represented, Elvis and Frank Sinatra in music, and John Denver. But this was his motion picture company, and I was in features, and we made a film called Troop Beverly Hills, which was starring Shelley Long. We made another film, The Big Blue. We acquired a film library. He was positioning himself to be a major company until he went bankrupt. And that was one of his only failures.
Where'd you go after that?
After Jerry Weintraub, I went to Disney, and I filled in for a year for the head of legal and features, who was on maternity leave and taking a family leave. And so I headed up legal on films like Dick Tracy, Madonna was in that, Rocketeer, another live action film. But what I really remember about my time at Disney is they were revamping the animation department, and they wanted to make a different kind of Disney animated film. And part of it, in the old days, Disney animated films, the voices weren't advertised. They weren't the stars of the movie. Disney was the star, or Dumbo was the star, but the voices were hardly known. And we broke that mold, and it was the first deal where we paid real money to someone to do a voice. Was a deal I made with Robin Williams to voice Aladdin. And it changed the whole history of Disney and feature animation. I worked on Beauty and the Beast, and it was a tremendous experience to be involved with them.
After you worked at Disney, did you continue to fill in-house deal-making roles?
Yeah, I continued my in-house road, even in the world that I could see was consolidating, and it was going to be more and more difficult to stay in-house. After Disney, I went to a company called Media Home Entertainment, and they put up money for films, and for their investment, they got the VHS cassette rights. So Media Home Entertainment was one of the producers, investors in the Nightmare on Elm Street series and Blue Velvet. And what they got was the right to sell video cassettes. They also manufactured and sold the Jane Fonda videos or the NFL videos. And it was a great business, except the studios realized, are we crazy? Why are we letting another company sell video? We should keep that in-house. And so I was not only head of legal, but I was on the board of directors, and we sold the company to Fox so that they could take in the assets and eliminate a competitor.
Where'd you go after that?
After Media Home Entertainment, I went to a company called Kushner Lock. It was it was at a time in the business there were hundreds of independent producing companies because the networks couldn't produce for themselves. There were laws preventing it. And Kushner Lock, we produced Pinocchio with Jonathan Taylor Thomas. We produced a small movie called Freeway. It was Reese Witherspoon's one of her first roles. And it was, I was there for 8 years. It was a good long run until they, as all those independent companies ultimately did, not all, most, they went bankrupt after 8 years.
What did you do after that?
Now, you can see I'm still chasing the in-house world. I went to a company, Nelvana. They were a Canadian animation company, but they had this big office in LA. I headed up business and legal. We manufactured, made, produced animated television series like Care Bears and merchandising also. Babar, Big Bear, Little Bear, all sorts of animated subjects and merchandising deals and cartoons, if you will. And then that Canadian company closed the LA office and moved back to Canada. I didn't want to move back to Canada. And so my last in-house situation, I went to Universal Network Television, and I did business and legal affairs on Just Shoot Me, television series, a series starring Josh Brolin called Mr. Sterling. It was kind of patterned on Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. And at the same time I was at Universal Network Television, I consulted with Nickelodeon Features, and I helped them sort of build out their feature products. They were on the Paramount lot. I had been at Paramount for a long time, and we worked on films such as SpongeBob, the animated film. And then when that consulting ended and NBC came in and bought Universal, that ended my job at Universal, and I made the decision I would go back and be a lawyer at a law firm.
What types of work were you doing when you went back to the law firms?
When I went back to the law firm, I did a lot of, I worked on their clients, and I helped a financier, Robert Sillerman, in effect buy the American Idol brand. I worked with Barry Gordy's company, trying to turn some of his world into theatrical plays. I worked with the Nat King Cole estate, trying to do things. So it was a lot of reality. I remember I worked with J. Walter Thompson, and they were in effect creating advertising opportunity branding. And then the one that sticks in my mind is I helped George Foreman market things so that he made a deal to be the face of a thing called the George Foreman Grill, and it was a good practice.
Mr. Marks, you testified that you now are at a law firm called Richard Markson Associates. When did you start that firm?
Well, after the firm I just told you about was called Greenberg Traurig. It's a large international firm. I moved to a firm called The Point Media in 2006, and I was there for 14 years, doing much the same work that I do now. And then in 2020, right at the start of the pandemic, I went out on my own and formed Richard Markson Associates.
Over the course of your career, what, if any, changes have you observed in the deal-making space in the entertainment industry?
Well, before I got involved in the business, most deals for writers were how much money per week and how many weeks. When I got into the business, it was already more complicated. But through my decades, all that's happened has gotten more and more complicated. Still the essential elements of time, money, credit, perks, money, whatever. But it's gotten more complicated. You had to deal with merchandising. You had to deal with sequels. You had to deal with all sorts of derivative works, video games, you name it, publicity, promotion. It all expanded so that making a deal that might have been, simple 30 years before now was a major production. And lawyers became integral. You couldn't do a deal without someone who was going to dive into the boilerplate and make sure that it was right.
Your Honor, I'm about to switch gears a little bit. I don't know if you would like to break now for lunch.
That's fine. If you could approach us for a moment, just want to make sure.
Your Honor, before we take lunch, plaintiff would move in Mr. Marks as an expert in the entertainment industry.
All right, any objection? All right, so moved. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go ahead and take our hour lunch then. Please do not talk to anybody and don't do any outside research. We'll see you back in an hour, okay? Thank you. Mr. Marks, if you could just stay there for a second, sir. Thank you. Stay there for a second. Just over there.
Thank you.
No problem, sir. All right. Sir, since you're in the middle of your testimony, you cannot talk to anybody about your testimony at this time, including any lawyers or Mr. Depp. Okay, sir? All right. All right. We'll be back. Then we'll be back at, let's make it 2 o'clock, okay? All right. Thank you. All right, you have a seat. Okay. Your next question?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Marks, what work were you asked to do in this case?
I was asked to bring my years of experience in the entertainment industry and look at the damage that the op-ed of 2018 created in Johnny Depp's career and his life and his reputation.
What work did you do to determine whether Mr. Depp's reputation had been damaged by the op-ed?
Well, again, I view the op-ed and the fallout through almost 50 years in the business. And what I did was I read the pleadings in the case, the deposition transcripts, the articles, the pleadings, all of the paperwork in this case, which is voluminous.
Based on the analysis you've done and your expertise in the entertainment industry, have you formed any opinions in this case?
Yes.
Generally speaking, what is your opinion?
My general opinion is that the op-ed damaged Mr. Depp, created a cancel situation, if you will, harmed his reputation and his ability to get work in Hollywood industry.
Objection.
Hold on, sir. Yes.
I thought, could we approach?
Sure.
Mr. Marks, do you have experience working with companies looking to engage actors to market or advertise their products?
Yes.
And what's that experience?
Well, virtually every company I work for, they are engaging actors to advertise their products. Most of the time, those products are TV shows or streaming series or feature films that all involve product spin-offs and derivatives, and sometimes they are just products and spokespeople getting together. But yes, I have experience in hiring a star to be the face of your product.
What types of things do companies consider when they're looking at using actors in their marketing or advertising?
Well, as you can imagine, they consider reputation. This is a capitalist society, and they're looking to make money. They want to add value to their investment. They want actors who have reputations that will bring eyeballs to the screen, bodies in the seats. They're looking for added value, not negativity.
Do you have experience negotiating agreements for actors to play a certain role in a film?
Oh, yes. As I explained, I negotiate deals with actors to play roles in films. And
what's the significance of the actor in the starring role in the context of a feature film?
The actor in the starring role becomes the face of the film, the product, the series. That actor is synonymous with the product. And again, in hiring that actor or actress, you want a reputation that supports the value that you've spent on creating the product. You might say that Pirates of the Caribbean is Johnny Depp and vice versa. That's the importance of hiring a star.
What aspects of an actor's reputation might impact their ability to get hired by brands or studios?
Well, again, on the other side of the coin, you wouldn't want to hire an actor who has negativity following them. You wouldn't want to pay to actually bring your brand down, your movie. And so that's very important, and especially in the last 5 years with the Me Too movement, you wouldn't want negativity hiring an actor who, quote unquote, had been canceled.
Is there anything in particular that might prevent an actor from getting hired by a brand or a studio?
Well, I mean, we're talking about illegal activity, a criminal record, but right now, the pinnacle of negativity in Hollywood is being accused of domestic abuse, sexual abuse, violence, and what we've seen is almost immediately terminations and cancellations for the investors, to the people who create that product, to move away from that negativity.
I think you mentioned the Me Too movement. What's your understanding of what the Me Too movement is?
My understanding of the Me Too movement is that finally society is listening to the victim, giving the victim of domestic abuse, sexual abuse, the benefit of the doubt. And there has been a shift in our society from not doing that to now the victim gets the benefit of the doubt until there's too much doubt. And to me, that's the Me Too movement. One person can come forward and accuse Harvey Weinstein, and another person can come forward, and another. That's the Me Too part of it. But they get the benefit of the doubt, whereas in the past, the victim didn't have that benefit.
What impact has the Me Too movement had on how Hollywood conducts business?
It, in my many decades in the business, Hollywood has changed and morphed, but never as quickly as to respond to the Me Too movement that started in 2017. When I started in the business, every contract for an actor or someone involved in a movie had a morals clause that you did certain things and you could be fired for it. They wanted to protect their brand. Before the Me Too movement, that morals clause was fading out. People with leverage, people said, wait a second, you just can't get rid of us because you think this or that. With the Me Too movement, Harvey Weinstein, Bill Cosby, if you will, the morals clause has come back, and it is a demanded feature in every entertainment employment agreement, because the studios want that verbiage. They want those rights so that they can act quickly and decisively when there is a claim.
Mr. Marks, do you have any experience working on a project where an actor was accused of domestic abuse or sexual violence?
Yes.
What was that experience?
I did some of the production legal work on a film called All the Money in the World. It was about the life of the Gettys, J. Paul Getty. And J. Paul Getty was played by Kevin Spacey. He acted in the part. He finished his role. He was paid. And then these Me Too accusations came out. And immediately, my client, in conjunction with Sony, they made a decision to take him out of the movie. And Christopher Plummer was hired. They reshot all his scenes and seamlessly cut them in to the movie. And if you see All the Money in the World, you won't know that Kevin Spacey was ever in it. so I had that personal experience, and then coincidentally, when that happened, I was also doing work for MRC, which produces House of Cards, and a very successful series, and he was the star of it, and he was immediately cut out, and everything was redone to get rid of the notion that Hollywood would support an abuser after the Me Too movement. And then because I was in the mix of all of it, I also know that Kevin Spacey had completed another movie for Netflix, and unlike All the Money in the World, they couldn't reshoot it, and it sits on the shelf, a movie about Gore Vidal that was finished but has never seen the light of day.
What's your understanding of why these companies wanted Kevin Spacey removed from those projects?
Can you repeat the question?
What's your understanding of why these companies wanted Kevin Spacey removed from those projects?
These companies, as I've said, they wanted Kevin Spacey removed because they didn't want the negativity. They want anyone removed so that they can get a return on their investment in our society, so that they are not seen as being in the old generation where women were not given the benefit of the doubt, where victims were not given the benefit of the doubt. And a switch has been turned, and certainly by 2017.
Are there certain types of companies that are particularly sensitive to these kinds of allegations made by women in light of the Me Too movement?
Well, I would say the bigger the company, the bigger the budgets, they're all sensitive. But at the pinnacle of sensitivity are the family-friendly companies like Disney. They're particularly sensitive, not in a general way, but in a very specific way.
Mr. Marks, are you familiar with the op-ed Ms. Heard published in the Washington Post on December 18th, 2018?
Yes.
What's your understanding of how that op-ed was received in Hollywood?
My understanding of how that op-ed was received in Hollywood.
Oh, is there
Objection, Your Honor.
objection? I'm sorry, sir. Yes.
Is this his personal understanding, his expert understanding? It seems like if it's his personal understanding, it's not relevant.
I'm asking Mr. Marks based on his nearly 50 years in the entertainment
I'll overrule the
industry.
objection.
Thank you, Your Honor.
As I've said before, I am a member of the Hollywood community. That op-ed, for the first time, is in a mainstream publication called the Washington Post. This is a flagship journal, if you will, of American news. We're not talking about a trade paper. We're not talking about a rag. We're talking about the Washington Post. And it is geared to Hollywood. It says, 2 years ago, when I was getting my divorce, Amber Heard is saying, I was the abuser, and you didn't, Hollywood, you stood up for my abuser, not for
Objection,
me,
Your
the
Honor.
victim.
Objection. Now he's mischaracterizing the document.
I think he's expressing his understanding of how that was perceived.
I'll overrule the objection. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor.
What I'm saying is Hollywood got the subject matter of the op-ed loud and clear. Amber Heard was calling out Hollywood for supporting since 2016, supporting her abuser, and she felt the wrath of Hollywood. She was calling them out to do something. In the Washington Post, and on the eve of her biggest film, a big film for Hollywood, the publicity machine was in high gear. There was lots of publicity and news out there. This was the height of her fame, and she used it at that moment to call Hollywood out. They, in my opinion, as a member of Hollywood, they heard that plea loud and clear, and it also got her publicity for her movie, I don't think in my perception, and people in Hollywood didn't see that as a coincidence, that date. So yeah, in Hollywood, I think the message was received that she was sending.
Mr. Marks, do you have an understanding of Mr. Depp's reputation in Hollywood with respect to whether or not he's on time to his film sets?
Yes.
What's your understanding?
Hollywood has a history of putting up with major artists and major stars' idiosyncratic behaviors. We've always had divas like Marilyn Monroe who would stay in her trailer for half a day. Johnny Depp has a reputation of being Johnny Depp, and when you hire Johnny Depp, you get all of Johnny Depp, and that includes being late. And fortunately, in Hollywood, because of the budgets and the box office, you can budget for lateness. You can have second unit. You can have other shots. You have padding in budgets. You have insurance for accidents. But Hollywood knows Mr. Depp's reputation, and I heard someone say Hollywood puts up with diva and drugs. They only do that when money's involved and big stars are involved and artistry is involved.
Mr. Marks, did you have an understanding of Mr. Depp's overall reputation in Hollywood prior to the publication of the December 2018 op-ed?
I would say that Johnny Depp was one of the few major actors in Hollywood who managed to keep most of his personal life personal, kept himself shrouded, if you will, a bit. And his reputation, preceded him as a major artist in Hollywood. But what also marked him in this business is that he was congruent. He was likable. He was one of the guys. And I never heard any complaints, if you will.
Do you have an opinion about the impact of the publication of the op-ed on Mr. Depp's reputation in Hollywood?
It's devastating. It's the type of claim, the Me Too claim of sexual violence, domestic abuse, that has canceled a list of actors. Chris Noth recently. I just read something about Frank Langella. We know newscasters, Les Moonves, head of CBS. Now Johnny Depp is in their ranks. It's devastating.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
All right, cross-examination. Mr. Nadelhoff.
Good afternoon. Your rate in this case is $975 per hour, is that right?
That's correct.
And you've never charged that higher rate in any other case, isn't that right?
I've charged near that amount, but
never that high, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. How much have you received for this case?
I'd have to look at my billing. During my deposition, the attorney who deposed me asked me the same question. I said I would look it up. I did during lunch, and then she never got back to it again. I don't remember how much it was then, and I don't have the figures now.
And you don't know how many hours you worked on this case?
I would guess, again, I'd be guessing, and I don't know if you want me to guess. I have a full-time transactional practice. This is a very small part of my practice.
Okay. Now, you said you worked for Disney for less than a year, right?
I worked for Disney about a year.
Yeah, and that was in 1990, right?
Yes.
So that was 32 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay. And you worked at Greenberg Trauring from 2004 to 2006, is that right?
That's correct.
Your leaving was a mutual decision, was it not?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Mr. Depp still has an endorsement deal with Dior, correct?
I understand that, yes.
Okay. And he's had that endorsement deal since 2015, isn't that right?
I believe he's had the endorsement deal for a while, and I think he still has it.
Right. And Dior hasn't dropped Mr. Depp, correct?
As far as I know, Dior has not dropped him.
All right. And Mr. Depp did not have a contract for Pirate 6, isn't that right?
As far as I know, there is no contract for Pirate 6.
Right. In all the documents you've looked at, you looked at all the documents in this case, and you've not seen a contract for Pirate 6, right?
That's my memory of the documents. There was no contract for Pirate 6.
And in all the documents you looked at, you didn't see a text saying Mr. Depp got the contract for Pirate 6 for $22.5 million, right?
Objection asked and answered.
Overruled.
I didn't see paperwork on an agreement for Pirates of the Caribbean 6.
So not an email, not a text, not any written document about Pirate 6, correct?
Objection asked and answered.
I'll sustain that objection. Next question.
And you don't know one way or the other whether Mr. Depp will be in Pirates of Caribbean 6. You don't have a crystal ball, is that right?
Objection, speculation.
He's an expert.
Allow it. No, go ahead. Overruled. Go ahead. You can answer, sir.
Well, as an expert, of course, I don't have a crystal ball, but as an expert, I think Disney will do everything possible to try to put him back in Pirates, but not under this cloud.
Okay. You would agree that there was negative publicity about Mr. Depp before the op-ed, correct?
Yes.
You know that Ms. Heard made her accusations public starting in May of 2016, right?
Yes.
And Hollywood knew about that, right?
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Depp still had movies after May of 2016, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you would agree that there was negative publicity about Mr. Depp being publicly drunk before the op-ed, correct?
There was, I agree with the proposition that there was negative publicity before the op-ed. The op-ed was something different.
And you agree, in 2014, there was an article in The Guardian that said apparently drunk Johnny Depp cut off at Hollywood Film Awards ceremony. Would you agree with that?
Again, I don't remember reading The Guardian, and I don't remember that particular incident, but I'll take you at your word.
And you remember in looking through all the documents that you saw an article that Johnny Depp allegedly showed up drunk to movie premiere, reports say, right? That was in 2017.
I think I've testified that there is certainly Johnny Depp behavior and negativity out there. Yes.
And that a family production studio like Disney wouldn't want to be associated with, correct?
Again, you're talking about a very specific, series of 5 films that earn billions of dollars, and there is a line in Hollywood, as I've said, they'll put up with divas and drugs to make money, but now we've drawn a line in Hollywood at the domestic and sexual abuse.
And in looking through the documents, you saw articles in June of 2018 that said vodka for breakfast, 72-hour drug binges, and spending sprees that beggar belief. You saw that?
Again, I know these articles exist. I know they're not in the Washington Post. I don't know what article you're referring to, who wrote it, what publication it was in, but I know that those articles exist.
And you'd agree that before the op-ed, Mr. Depp had a run of movie flops, wouldn't you agree?
Every actor has, ups and downs. Mr. Depp, his career's been decades long.
You would agree
And-
that in January of 2015, there was an article that said Johnny Depp is on his way to becoming the most overpaid actor in Hollywood.
Again, you'd have to show me the article, but I don't doubt that some commentator trying to trade on being a smarty pants wrote that.
And you'd agree that there was another article in 2015 that says, quote, has Johnny Depp become Hollywood's biggest joke?
I don't know. Netflix has a whole festival going now. Netflix is a joke.
And you'd agree that there is an article in Business Insider from 2015 that says Johnny Depp has his 5th box office bomb in a row.
If that's what it said, it said. Are you just going to keep reading this?
Well, I mean, this is Mr. Depp's reputation. That's what you're talking about in terms of Hollywood, correct? And in 2016, December of 2016, there's an article that says, quote, Johnny Depp is Hollywood's most overpaid actor for the 2nd year in a row. Did you recall reading that?
I don't know. Was that written by the second underpaid actor? Or
And you would agree
written by?
that before the op-ed, there was negative publicity for Mr. Depp about assassinating President Trump. Would you agree?
No, I missed that one.
You didn't see an article in the New York Times that said Johnny Depp flirts with idea of Trump assassination, then apologizes?
Again,
Did
Johnny
you read it or
Depp
not?
talks with irony and panache, and I don't particularly remember that. I have a lot of stuff in front of me.
Disney wouldn't want to be involved with somebody who's calling for the assassination of the president, would it?
I'm sure after those articles, Johnny Depp was involved in major studio projects.
Do you know one way or the other whether Mr. Depp was involved in major studio projects after June 23rd, 2017?
I think, again, I haven't quoted his IMDb page to memory, but he was in an animated film called Sherlock Gnomes. I think it was released, Paramount is one of the producers. I think it was released in 2017.
Would you agree that before the op-ed there was negative publicity for Mr. Depp about punching a crew member on a film set?
I heard about that.
So that's people who work in Hollywood that Mr. Depp had an accusation of assault, correct?
I heard about it, yes.
And would you agree that there were stories about Mr. Depp drinking heavily on the set of Pirates 5?
There were lots of stories that came out, and I'm sure that was one of them.
And those stories came out in 2016 and 2017, before the op-ed, right?
Again, you'd have to show me a timeline, but I'll take your word that there were articles written in various rags or trade public.
Is the New York Times a rag? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying the New York Times is a rag. What I'm saying is, at the height of the Me Too movement, we have this op-ed directed at Hollywood, and in the Hollywood I know, the rest of the stuff is background noise.
Now, and Pirates 5 did not make as much money in the box office as the prior Pirates movies did. Isn't that true?
That's true. It only made about $800 million.
It made less, though, than the first 4, correct?
Yeah, and any company would want to have a box office hit that made $800 million.
Now, can you put up Defendant's Exhibit 99, please? And if you could blow it up. Now, you said the Me Too movement started in 2017. Is that what you're saying?
It actually started long before that, but it picked up steam to what we now call the Me Too movement in 2017.
Okay, and do you recognize this article from Dan Wooten that says, how can J.K. Rowling be genuinely happy casting wife-beater Johnny Depp in the new Fantastic Beasts film?
Yes, this article is in the UK Sun, which came to prominence by publishing topless women on page 3.
And the article came out on April 27th, 2018, correct?
I haven't skimmed through this, but I'll take your word for it.
And I think what you're trying to say was that the Sun was a rag, so no one would pay any attention to it. Is that what you're trying to say?
I'm saying the Sun is the Sun, and it's in the UK, And what this article is repeating stuff from 2016, repeating all the stuff that you might say should be all past history after the divorce. It's one Wooten's opinion in a newspaper that's claimed to fame as page 3 women topless, and yeah.
And Mr. Depp sued the Sun over this, right?
What's that?
Mr. Depp sued the Sun in the UK about this article, right?
As far as I know, he wanted to clear his name. That's right.
And Mr. Depp, that lawsuit occurred in 2020, correct? It was tried in 2020.
I believe so, yeah.
And there were accusations of abuse that came out based on that lawsuit, correct?
As far as I know, the accusations were all old news and predated much. Yeah, I mean, this is a 2018 article, and in 2020, they probably were rehashing it.
And the old news that was coming out in 2018, that would also affect Mr. Depp's reputation, correct?
Again, I've tried to draw a line, the line that Hollywood draws between the Me Too movement and starting in 2017 and the gossip and the claims back and forth. I mean, there was also press about Amber Heard being an abuser in those years. There was also the other side of the coin.
But the op-ed that didn't mention Mr. Depp at all and didn't mention any accusations that what happened to her, that's what caused Mr. Depp all his reputational harm? That's what you're saying?
Well, I don't agree that this article was not about
Did it mention Mr. Depp? That's what I asked you.
Well, does she have another husband who abused her
But
in 2016?
did it talk about it? Did it talk at all about Mr. Depp's abuse?
Objection, Your Honor. He's tried to answer the first question, which was not exactly what the second question was that he re-asked. I'd asked that he be permitted to finish.
Ask your question. We'll go from there.
The op-ed article didn't mention any specific abuse by Mr. Depp towards Amber Heard, correct?
The only name is this is Amber Heard telling her story that started in 2016 when she was domestically abused and ignored.
Now, there were headlines about the UK trial, correct?
I'm sure there were, yes.
Like, let's burn Amber text allegedly sent by Johnny Depp about X read in court?
I didn't hear you.
Let's burn Amber text allegedly sent by Johnny Depp about X read in court.
Yeah.
And there's a headline from July 19th, 2020 that said, quote, Hollywood nervously awaits fallout from explosive Johnny Depp trial. So Hollywood was following the case, correct?
Yeah. When was that headline?
In 2020.
2020. Yeah, look, Johnny Depp is a decades-long fixture in Hollywood, and people were following something across the pond. You know, we thought we kind of got rid of the UK in 1776, but they were still following it, absolutely.
I mean, Mr. Depp thought of enough about this article to have a 3-week trial in the UK, correct?
Objection. Calls for speculation about what Mr. Depp thought.
I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
There was a 3-week trial in the UK based on this article by Dan Wooten, correct?
I think I've said Mr. Depp finally had enough, and he sued to clear his name.
Okay, could I approach, Your Honor?
All right. You want to?
Mr. Marks, you testified that in the UK case, Mr. Depp was looking to clear his name, correct?
That's my assumption, yes.
And yes or no, did Mr. Depp clear his name through that lawsuit?
I wasn't in the UK, and I'm not going to opine on that. That's not what I've been engaged to talk about.
You don't know one way or the other whether Mr. Depp cleared his name through that lawsuit?
Objection, Your Honor. Asked and answered.
I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
You understand, can you please put up Defendant's Exhibit 115? In looking through the documents, did you see headlines from October 25th, 2018, almost 2 months before the op-ed, that Mr. Depp would not be in Pirate 6?
I saw that there was speculation in different publications, none quoting a Disney executive, if you will, none being definitive.
Okay. And
by the way, I can't see where's this article from? I just see the headline.
DailyMail.com.
So the Daily Mail is a UK publication?
Oh, all right, let's move. I mean, do you know or not?
Do I know what?
Do you know if it's a UK publication or not?
I think that the Daily Mail is, but I'm not sure.
Okay. Now, did you review the deposition testimony in this case of the Walt Disney corporate designee?
Yes.
Okay. And do you recall that the corporate designee testified that Disney produced all documents related to its business relationship with Mr. Depp, including considering Mr. Depp for any work with Disney or future Pirates films, and she did not recall seeing the op-ed or any documents referring to the op-ed in that production of documents?
I read the deposition. I don't recall seeing the op-ed in what Disney produced. What I do recall is that the person giving that deposition for Disney really had no contact with Jerry Bruckheimer or Sean Bailey. Just was someone that Disney put up who didn't know anything, is what I took
And you
from the
understand,
deposition.
you're a lawyer, right? You understand that a corporate designee is supposed to be in the shoes of the corporation talking for Disney, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. I think that's outside the scope of his expertise in this case.
Overruled. Okay, go ahead.
I understand that that's what the corporate designee is supposed to be, but when I read that they are not in touch with the president of the company, it gives me pause.
So Disney itself represented through this witness that it did not have the op-ed in any of its files, correct?
I don't remember that passage in the deposition, but I can't remember. She certainly did not quote the op-ed or produce the op-ed or talk about the op-ed.
Okay. Now,
but in Hollywood, actions sometimes speak much louder than words.
and did you recall that same corporate designee said that Pirate 6 is still possibly in development?
Until Disney says it's not in development, it's in development.
Okay. And can we put up Defendant's Exhibit 134? And you see this is from November 5th, 2020?
And where's this from? Some rogue website? Where's this from?
InsideTheMagic.com?
Okay.
Okay. And this says Disney reportedly scraps plans for Depp's Pirates of the Caribbean 6 return, and that was on November 5th, 2020, correct?
Assuming that this is a correct copy of this random website, that's what it says. They're not quoting the head of production. It's not a statement by Disney, but that's what this woman, Rebecca Barton, says.
Well, 2 years after the op-ed, it was still a question as to whether Mr. Depp was going to be in Pirate 6.
There was no contract for Mr. Depp to be in Pirates 6, but he was Pirates, and there would always be that question until Pirates is produced or until Disney says otherwise.
And November 2020 was at the same time as all the publicity surrounding the UK case, correct?
I think the UK judgment came out in November 2020.
And this article came out 3 days after the judgment, correct?
If the judgment came out on the 2nd, this is 3 days later in, what's this again, moviemagic.com?
Correct.
By Rebecca, Barton.
Could I approach, Your Honor?
All right.
Now, isn't it true that you don't recall when you first read the op-ed?
As I sit here today, I don't recall when I first read it.
I mean, it wasn't a big deal to you. You didn't read it in 2018, correct?
I have a wife, 2 kids, a full-time job. I don't remember.
Okay. And you have no idea when you first read it? I just want to make sure I understand that.
Objection, asked and answered, Your Honor.
I sustain the
Look,
objection.
I wasn't at
I'll
Dis-
sustain the objection. Next question.
Okay.
I sustain the objection.
Okay.
Next question.
Now, you, as an expert in the entertainment field, do you know any actresses whose careers have gotten better after making accusations of a domestic abuse against an actor in Hollywood?
I think that the taint sticks and to both sides, and I can't think of any actresses who have prevailed and who've been canceled.
Do you know of any actresses whose careers have gotten better after making accusations of domestic abuse against a man in Hollywood?
I haven't been asked to opine on that, but I certainly will look into it. I don't think that this is something.
The answer is no, right? You don't know.
Again, I assume that.
It's a yes or no. Do you know or not?
Thought her career would get better by bringing this out. I don't know.
All right, thank you. I have nothing further.
All right, redirect.
Mr. Marks, you were asked a series of questions about a number of publications and publicity related to Mr. Depp by Mr. Nadelhoff. Do you recall those questions?
He asked a lot of questions about a lot of articles.
And, sir, based on your experience in the entertainment industry, do you have an understanding of what types of publications carry the most weight in Hollywood?
The publications that carry the most weight in Hollywood, in my opinion, after all these decades, are Variety, Hollywood Reporter, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, New York Times. Those are the publications.
And Mr. Nadelhoff asked you a number of questions about certain headlines related to Mr. Depp and various news coverage related to Mr. Depp. Do you have an opinion about the impact of those articles that you looked at with Mr. Nadelhoff on cross-examination on Mr. Depp's reputation in Hollywood?
Again, I don't remember all the articles, but what I do know is that Johnny Depp had always had articles about him, and that didn't change the baseline. If you had a big project and it had a role for Johnny Depp, that didn't change the baseline.
Is your opinion about the op-ed misheard author different than that?
My opinion about the op-ed in the Washington Post was a different. That was had a different quality of headline and article.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further
All
questions.
right, is this witness subject to recall?
He is, Your Honor.
All right, sir, since you're subject to recall, the rule of witness does apply for you, so you cannot discuss your testimony and do not watch any of the case, okay, sir? But you're free to go today, sir, okay? Thank you. All right, your next witness.
Plaintiff calls Richard Marks, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Marks. So just a reminder that you're... Move it. Hold on, we'll move it. Just give us a second and see. No, sir, you've already... Just a reminder that you're still under oath, okay, sir? All right, good morning, sir. All right. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Your Honor. Welcome back, Mr. Marks. You've testified in this case previously, but would you just briefly remind the jury who you are?
I'm Richard Marks, and I'm a full-time entertainment transactional attorney. I make deals every day for productions and for individuals. I'm in the trenches negotiating and then making sure the contracts reflect the deals. And I'm very much distinguished from the other side's expert who is not an attorney, who's not in the trenches making deals, is not in that day-to-day process.
And are you familiar with the testimony of Catherine Arnold in this matter?
Yes.
Have you been asked to analyze that testimony and provide opinions in response?
Yes.
And generally, what are those opinions?
Well, my opinions are that she's very slick and smooth, but she's not an expert in deal making. Her assessment of damages is built on nothing, and it's wildly speculative.
Are you familiar with Ms. Arnold's opinion that it's customary for an actor to renegotiate the fee for a subsequent picture option in a multi-picture contract when a film is successful?
Yes, I heard that opinion.
And are you also familiar with her testimony that under those circumstances, an actor will renegotiate a 50 to 100% increase in their salary for the next optional film?
Yes, I heard her say that.
Do you agree with those opinions?
Absolutely not.
Why not, sir?
Well, what we're dealing with in this case is a test option agreement. And that's an agreement, it's a multi-picture agreement, and it's the nightmare for people like me. The test is going to take place, let's say, for 10 actors the next morning at 9, and you have to fully negotiate a contract that might cover 4 movies and have it signed before they're allowed to test, so that if they're chosen for the part, we have the full contract. There's no renegotiation. So you've got a contract for a multi-picture deal. It's usually a franchise, and you negotiate the first movie. And normally, if they get the part, they're the chosen one. They're the Stars Born moment, if you will. They get the part. Normally, their salary is inflated from their normal salary, because now they're going to play a character that could go on for 4 movies. In this case, Ms. Heard's first salary when she got the part was $450,000. If Warner Brothers and DC Comics decided to make a next movie, they could recast her. They had no obligation. All they had was an option. But if they did cast her up front, that they had agreed to more than double her salary, like 2.25 times to get to the $1 million. These are large bumps, if you will. If an actor is on a series, say, they go, and they have 5 options. They go up in increments of 5%, 10%, 20%, not these multiples that you see in a test option agreement. And that's one of the reasons that they aren't renegotiated normally. They are in some instances, but not normally.
What's the significance of the test part in a test option agreement?
The test significance is that an established actor usually wouldn't test. They'd be offered the role. Ms. Heard was in a group of actors that needed to be tested to see if the studio wanted to hire them, and then if they hired them, they would be locked up for potentially 4 movies at very lucrative increases, because after Aquaman 1, she gets to $1 million, Aquaman 2, she gets to $2 million, and Aquaman 3, you get to $4 million. These are unheard of bumps if you're going on a normal career and trying to increase your salary by increments.
In your experience, what is customary for negotiations of multi-picture deals?
Well, I think what happened in this case was customary for negotiation of multi-picture deals. And by that I mean that you assume success. The reason you go from the first Justice League movie where Ms. Heard played Mira the first time, the reason you more than double her salary is you assume success. So you've already built in the bonus that Ms. Arnold was referring to, a renegotiation, if you will, for the third movie. Instead of doubling her salary, Ms. Arnold said it would only be fair to quadruple her salary. And that's just not the way these idiosyncratic contracts work. They're a very small portion of the contracts we deal with.
Are you familiar with Ms. Arnold's opinion that Ms. Heard's salary for Aquaman 2 could have been renegotiated to around $4 million?
I am.
Do you agree with that opinion?
No.
Why not?
Well, as I've said, that would now be, after a healthy first payday, it's more than doubled, and now it would be quadrupled. That's not the way it happens. Walter Hamada, who is the president of that part of the studio, said it doesn't happen. They're not going to do it. Ms. Arnold, for some substance, says, well, Jason Momoa got to do it, but she doesn't give us any of the details. We know that Jason Momoa was in a movie before the Justice League. He played Aquaman in a movie not with Ms. Mira in that movie. So he had a history before the first movie with Amber Heard. He played Aquaman. We don't know what his contract, the state of it was when you got to Aquaman 2, and she says, unsupported, that he renegotiated. We're not sure what he renegotiated to. But I can say that at the end of the option period, when you've only got one option left, and you want that star in more movies, you may renegotiate, but it's not a gratuity. It's, we'll give you more for the last option if you'll give us 3 more options. It's a give and take. And unfortunately, Ms. Arnold didn't give us any of that background or those building blocks. And then I think yesterday she said, and the other actors renegotiated. And again, we don't know their salary history. We don't know their contracts. We don't know anything except she's asking you just to believe her as what I refer to as a professional expert.
Are you aware that Ms. Arnold's opined that, but for the alleged defamatory statements by Mr. Waldman, Ms. Heard would have earned $45 million in the last 18 months and then the next 3 to 5 years?
Yes, I am.
I'd like to address some of the components of that one by one with you, Mr. Marks. Are you familiar with her testimony that Ms. Heard would continue to make films for approximately $4 million each following Aquaman 2?
Yes.
Do you agree with that testimony?
No.
Why not?
Well, again, in Aquaman 2, Amber Heard has already had this huge increase. She worked on Aquaman 2 for $2 million. What Ms. Arnold is saying is, oh, she should have worked on it for $4 million, which I disagree with, and I think there is reasons to negotiate. They weren't here in this case. So the $4 million I have a disagreement with. But even if it was at $4 million, or if it was at $2 million, the 4 or 5 movies that Ms. Heard might get might be independent movies. They might be standalone studio movies. They might be passion projects. Every actor has a quiver full of quotes, and their highest quote is for the superhero fantasy journey. Their lowest quote might be for the independent passion project, where they'll defer their salary and almost take nothing to work, just SAG minimum. To assume that she'd get 4 or 5 more movies at this, her last fantasy quote, would be to assume that those are also those type of movies, playing another character. And Ms. Arnold says that Ms. Heard's breakout moment, her Star is Born moment, is Christmas 2018. If that's true, and I don't think it's true, those moments don't normally happen to supporting cast, but if it's true, as a deal maker, you would expect, if you represented producers, production companies, to flock in, to take advantage of this hot star and to sign them up. And we have, from Christmas 2018 to spring 20, where there is none of this activity. The Star is Born phenomena didn't happen. Ms. Heard starred in one series of 8 episodes, and she earned a healthy fee, $200,000 an episode. But that's 5 times less than the $1 million Miss Arnold is tossing out, supposedly based on Jason Momoa's quote. She doesn't prove it or give us facts. And Jason Momoa is not a comparable actor. He's been in a series where they shot 78 episodes, 44 episodes, 21 episodes. He played Conan the Barbarian. He was in Game of Thrones. It's not a
Objection, Your Honor.
comparable.
I'm unresponsive to.
All right, I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
Mr. Marks, we'll get to some of those issues in a moment, but I want to take you back for a second. I believe you testified a few minutes ago that your understanding is that the last option in a multi-picture deal might be renegotiated under some circumstances. Do you have an understanding of whether Aquaman 2 was the last option in Ms. Heard's contract with Warner Brothers?
Oh, no. Aquaman 2 has not even been released, and Warner Brothers has a 4th option for Aquaman 3 or another movie where Mira appears, that character, and they've agreed to double the salary again. So it's in success, and that assumes that they recast and that they make the movie.
Are you aware of Ms. Arnold's testimony that Ms. Heard would have made several $1 million on endorsement deals, such as the one she had with L'Oreal?
I'm aware of that testimony.
Do you agree with that opinion?
No.
Why not?
Again, this is a business of personalities. We didn't, after the breakout moment that Ms. Arnold talked about, Christmas 2018, we didn't see endorsement deals flocking to Ms. Heard during that 16-month period before Adam Waldman made a few statements in the London Daily Mail, I believe it was. We didn't see those endorsements coming to her. We didn't. What Ms. Arnold shows you is these non-comparable actors. They had endorsement deals, but she doesn't show you when she describes the breakout moment and why she's comparing Amber Heard to these, what I call uncomparable actors, but she's making the comparison. She's saying, well, they had all these deals, why wouldn't she? But for the statements that happened 16 months later, and I guess my primary question is what happened in the 16 months, even if you believe 3 statements in the Daily Mail are the stake through the heart of this Stars Born moment.
Do you have an opinion about Ms. Arnold's testimony that Ms. Heard would have made $1 million an episode in a couple of streaming series following her A Star is Born moment?
Yes, I heard it. I have an opinion.
What's your opinion?
Well, after Aquaman 1, this is a major coup. Amber Heard got that role. She tested for it. She could have been the other 19 actresses or 10 or whoever else tested. Didn't get it. She got the role, and she got her salary doubled for Aquaman 1 to $1 million. Now, Ms. Arnold wants you to believe that that $1 million would translate into, she'd get that for each episode of a series. We know what she got for a series. She got a series in that period after Christmas 2018, before spring of 2020. She got a series. It was 8 episodes, and it was $200,000 an episode. And Miss Arnold is from somewhere in a glib way saying she got a couple series and $1 million each. And I can tell you, as someone in the trenches, rarely does an actor get $1 million for a series episode. And again, in those 16 months, there were no offers for series at $1 million an episode. In fact, her only series is the $200,000. And if you look at her resume, the series that Ms. Heard were in, I think the longest one ran 8 episodes. Jason Momoa, if you were to believe Ms. Arnold, and somehow Jason Momoa's agent broke their confidentiality in the agreement, and he had a series at $1 million an episode. If you're to believe that, Jason Momoa has had a series with 78 episodes, with 44 episodes, with 21 episodes, with 18 episodes, with 21 episodes. He was in, again, there's not a comparableness there.
We spoke a few minutes ago about the test option agreement. What's the significance of the option part of that agreement?
The option part of the agreement gives the employer, the studio, the option. They don't have to do anything. They have an option to either employ you at a very healthy salary to play this role or not. They can recast the superhero role. You just have to think of how many actors have played Batman or Superman. They can do what they want. And indeed, since there's no contract, they only have a choice to exercise their option or not. They might say, we're not exercising unless you reduce your compensation. Who knows what the negotiation would be? But it's not a contract until the studio exercises the option, and they don't have to.
What's the alternative to an option agreement?
Well, the alternative is most agreements in Hollywood, you're hired to play the role. Or once you exercise the option, then it becomes, for that picture, an agreement like others in Hollywood. You are now hired to play that role. So most contracts are guaranteed, you're hired to play the role. In an option agreement, once they exercise the option, for that movie, it becomes a guaranteed contract.
Are you aware that Ms. Arnold testified that Ms. Heard was released from her Aquaman 2 contract and then subsequently rehired?
I heard that testimony.
Is that consistent with your experience of the film industry in connection with these multi-option contracts?
No.
Why not?
Again, studios don't do things they don't have to do. As we heard Mr. Hamada, the president of the studio, say, you either exercise your option or you don't. They exercised their option. He denied releasing and then rehiring, and in my experience, in almost 5 decades in the business, doing this type of work, not talking about it, not consulting. I mean, I have, I heard Ms. Arnold say she'd been an expert 100 times. I'm a transactional lawyer. I do this occasionally. Basically, it's not a contract till they option it, and they pick up their option, and at that point, it's a guaranteed contract, and then different rules apply to it.
In your experience in the industry, do studios typically comment on those types of actions that they're taking with respect to options?
No, just like Mr. Hamada said, they don't need to comment on it. They either exercise the option or they don't. In Hollywood, silence is the default. You play no card before it's time. And the cards there were exercise the option or not. And I was surprised by Mr. Hamada under oath basically saying that there was this discussion of chemistry. That
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
I think it was an in-court statement this morning, I believe, Your Honor. That's fine.
It's the same hearsay that you were. It's hearsay like yesterday. I mean, it's hearsay.
I'll overrule the objection. Go ahead.
Thank you.
I didn't hear.
Go ahead, sir.
Overruled. You can continue, Mr.
Oh, I was surprised to hear Mr. Hamada say that they talked about chemistry. That would normally be behind closed doors because it can't help your relationship with the actor. You're either going to exercise or not. And that was quite a bit of candor from someone at his level. And so, therefore, I take it at face value. I think he felt that he was under oath and he was telling the truth. But it wouldn't
Objection,
be...
Your Honor, is...
I'll sustain the objection.
Mr. Marks, are there circumstances where a studio would be more likely to say something about not using an actor again in a franchise?
Yes.
What are those circumstances?
Once they've exercised the option, once the contract is guaranteed, the studio still has the right to pay the actor but not play them, pay or play them. And that is a rare condition because you've hired the actor, you've got to pay them, but you say, go home, we're recasting. In that situation, after you've exercised the option and the contract is guaranteed, if you pay off the actor, that's normally commented on. That becomes a bit of information because it's not normal.
Is that circumstance different from Ms. Heard's contract with Warner Brothers for the Aquaman movies?
Oh, yeah. Ms. Heard's contract, again, it was just an option. Either we exercise it or we don't. And if we exercise it, she's in the film. If we don't, she's not. until we exercise it, we have our right to recast or not make the movie. And even after we exercise it, we still have a right to recast and not make the movie. We just have to pay her salary.
Do you understand that Ms. Arnold compares Ms. Heard's career trajectory with that of other actors, including Jason Momoa, Gal Gadot, Zendaya, Ana de Armas, and Chris Pine?
I heard that.
And what's your opinion of those actors as comparables for Ms. Heard?
Even Ms. Heard's agent, Jessica Kay, said that 4 of those actors weren't
Objection, Your
comparable.
Honor, hearsay.
I believe same response, Your Honor, that it was in testimony that was played in court earlier this week.
I mean, that's not what she testified to. I mean, he's characterizing testimony that was from days ago, and I don't even think she testified to that, Your Honor.
Or you can cross-examine overrule.
Overruled. You may continue, Mr. Rose.
Again, they are not comparable. Jason Momoa was Aquaman. Chris Pine was Captain Kirk. Gal Gadot was Wonder Woman. Zendaya has been working on Disney Channel since she was 13. She's in all the Spider-Man movies. She goes by one name. Ana de Armas, when she was in a movie that they call, her breakout, it was as a nude poster. She's been in an ensemble piece, Knives Out. These are not comparables. Now, Ms. Arnold stuck to Jason Momoa, who's the most non-comparable because of his history and his career, but she didn't give us the advantage of telling us what his contracts were, what he renegotiated to, what he earned. She didn't give us any of those building blocks. She just she set him up as a comparable and then said what Ms. Heard should earn, but she never gave us the salary of Jason Momoa or the other comparables. And she built like this house of cards on nothing. She showed us with her words the beautiful clothing that the emperor was wearing, but we could see, if you know the business,
Objection, Your Honor.
that he wasn't.
Beyond the scope of the question.
All right, I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
Okay. You were just speaking about Mr. Momoa as a comparable. Are you aware that Ms. Arnold compares Ms. Heard to Mr. Momoa as an actor with equivalent franchise experience who was able to renegotiate his salary for significant increases in bonus?
Yes.
What's your response to that opinion?
Again, he didn't have comparable franchise experience to Ms. Heard. He was Conan the Barbarian. He played Aquaman in a movie that Amber Heard was not in. He played Aquaman, not a supporting character like Mira. It's just not comparable. And you can say the words, but I saw nothing from Miss Arnold to back it up, something to build on, which, if she was a negotiator in the trench, the studio negotiator would say, okay, so show us. Where's the comps? Let's talk numbers, because ultimately that's what we have to get to, not just because you say it's so. We just don't believe you. You've got to show us.
In your experience in the industry, what factors influence the negotiation of the terms of a film agreement with an actor?
Well, first it depends on the film. If the film is $1 million movie and everybody's deferring their salaries, that's one thing. If it's a superhero movie, that's another. But for deal makers and negotiators, the best predictor of what the deal should be is past earnings, precedent, comps. You also look at the budget of the movie, what it can bear, because if Jason Momoa's comp is $10 million, but the budget's $10 million, obviously he has another price for that movie. But the best predictor of future earnings is past earnings. And I didn't see any, Ms. Arnold talk about past earnings at all, except the earnings in this rarefied superhero 4-picture deal where instead of incremental increases, which you normally see, it was multiples increases. And then when you get on a series, the big renegotiation was when the network has no more options. Until then, the actors on the series get 5, 10, 15 small percentage raises. They don't get multiples. They get the multiples if it's a success and the studio wants to continue making the series and they want to keep these characters. That's when the renegotiation happens. Here, even if we believe Ms. Arnold, after Aquaman 2, there was still an option waiting at a big price, double the previous payday.
What's the significance of the timing of the Waldman statements to the opportunities Ms. Arnold claims Ms. Heard lost?
Well, the argument, as I understand it, is that Ms. Arnold says that Ms. Heard lost all these opportunities because of those losses were caused by Adam Waldman's statements 16 months later. So I think the timing.
Sure.
Mr. Marks, what's your overall assessment of Ms. Arnold's opinions in this case?
My overall assessment of her opinions is that they're not worth the paper they're not written on. She knows something about our business, but not about negotiating deals. She may have gotten someone at the Endeavor office to breach confidentiality, but she never laid out the building blocks.
Excuse me, there's an objection. You have to stop talking, Mr. Marks. Thank you. Beyond the scope.
Yeah, Mr. Marks, can you just limit your testimony to your opinion about Ms. Arnold's opinions, please?
My opinion, as someone who's made deals as a deal maker for almost 50 years, is that she calls herself an expert, but she's not. She doesn't have the background. She doesn't have the day-to-day knowledge. And her testimony that I heard did not back up her bottom line. If you want to get those figures, you have to show why they're deserved. And again, she was constructing a Jenga without the bottom pieces. It does not hold up under scrutiny by someone who makes deals.
No further questions.
All right, cross-examination.
Good morning, Mr. Marks.
Good morning.
So you agree that studios use comps to negotiate deals, correct, with actors?
Sometimes they do.
Okay. And you have an issue with the comps that Ms. Arnold used, correct, as you testified to?
I have an issue with the comps that she says she used that she didn't disclose.
The comps being the actors that you just talked about. She did disclose, she disclosed the actors.
She disclosed the actors and budget figures from their movies. She never disclosed their salaries and salary history as comps.
Did You're not offering a different set of comparators that should be used, correct?
I'm saying if you are going to,
That's not my question. Are you offering a different set of comparators than what Ms. Arnold used?
I'm not here offering comparators. I'm saying what she offered are not comparators.
That was my question. You're not offering comparators, correct?
No, I would say that Ms.
That was
Heard's
my
comparisons
sir,
are where you
respectfully, that
look.
was my question. Could motion to strike after the.
All
No.
right, we'll strike after that. Just answer the questions, Mr. Marks. Thank you.
Now, you're a deal maker, correct?
Yes.
What actors have you negotiated for in superhero movies?
Well, recently I've negotiated for Chris Pratt in a superhero series for Amazon. I've negotiated a deal for Michael Douglas, not in a superhero movie, but a historical movie. I've negotiated recently a deal for Paul Rudd and Will Ferrell on an Apple series. Billy Crudup on an Apple series. Those are the recent talent deals.
What actors have you negotiated for in a superhero movie?
As I sit here now, I can't remember a superhero movie that I've negotiated. I've certainly negotiated over my career franchise movies and fantasy movies.
Your Honor, so it's no, you haven't negotiated with for any actors for superhero movies, correct?
So you would define like, I don't know, Jungle Book isn't a superhero movie. It's more of a fantasy.
Okay, so no, correct. Your answer is no.
All right. So as I sit here, I can't think of a Marvel type superhero movie that I've negotiated. Although I know there's one or two in there.
Now, you testified and you agree that Mr. Momoa negotiated his multi-picture contract for Aquaman 2, correct?
I heard Mr. Hamada say there was a renegotiation, but no facts were pro-offered, such as he didn't have an option. His options were out. What he was earning and what he renegotiated to, and he is Aquaman Man. So yes, I did hear there was a renegotiation.
And you understand that his salary went from $3 to $4 million to $15 million.
If you tell me that, I haven't seen his contract and I haven't heard any testimony under oath that that's where the leap was.
Now, Ms. Heard's contract.
Did he get more? Did they get more options for when they made that leap? Did they get more options?
Ms. Heard's contract was a talent option contract, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you agree that for if there's an Aquaman 3, Ms. Heard would have an option to receive $4 million, correct, for the movie?
Well, actually, you would language it. Warner Brothers would have the option to engage her.
And if they engaged her, she would receive $4 million, correct?
She doesn't have the option to refuse. They have the option to engage her.
And she would receive $4 million, correct?
Yes, $4 million.
Would you agree that the money Amber was making on Aquaman 2 or 3 would be her market rate for future studio movies?
I would think it would be her rate for future studio superhero movies, but not necessarily studio movies that aren't superheroes. That could be standalone. That could be other type of studio movies.
But for studio superhero movies, it would be $4 million, correct?
If I was Ms. Heard's agent, that's where I would start. Okay. Assuming everything was equal. The budget of the superhero movie, that she was in the ensemble. There's a lot of ifs to look at, but all things being equal.
You agree that Aquaman was a breakthrough role for Ms. Heard, wasn't it?
It's the first movie of that ilk that she makes, but she is not Aquaman. She is Mira.
But it was a breakthrough movie for Ms. Heard, correct?
For her, it's a breakthrough movie to be in that film and in the ensemble. Absolutely.
And she was the female star of that movie, correct?
I believe so.
You would agree that for all of the actors Ms. Arnold listed as comparables, their career trajectory went up after their breakthrough, correct?
She didn't give us the raw materials to look at, but I'll take your word that all those unrelated actors in unrelated films, except for Jason Momoa, they went up. As did Miss Arnold's when she went from 1 to 2.
In your experience, can you identify an actor or an actress who's not been able to get a new studio movie after a breakthrough performance in a superhero movie?
As I sit here now, I haven't been asked to opine on that, but there are lots of supporting characters in movies that don't appear in the next movie.
But a female star in a breakthrough movie in a superhero movie, can you identify any actress who's not gotten another studio movie after that?
Well, after Miss Heard's breakthrough in 2018, she did get Aquaman 2.
Aquaman 2 was already, she already had the option for Aquaman 2,
all right,
correct?
so she did. Miss Heard did not get any movies after 2018, long before the Adam Waldman statements.
Other than Ms. Heard, can you identify any actor or actress who's not gotten another studio movie after their breakthrough in a superhero movie?
As I sit here now, I haven't been asked to research that, and I can't. That would be a normal thing.
And you're not providing an alternative number for Ms. Heard's damages, correct, for the jury?
Correct. I'm not providing an alternate number. I think, she's been more than adequately paid.
I'd move to strike after no, I've not been provided another number. That's all. I mean, my question was you're not providing another number.
I think it's in fairness and the full answer of the question, Your Honor.
It was a yes or no question. He said his answer was no.
I'm not going to strike it.
Okay. All right. No further questions.
All right. Redirect.
Mr. Marks, in response to some questions from Mr. Nadehaft, you were discussing some franchise and fantasy movie agreements that you've negotiated with actors. Could you just describe some of those for us?
I've had such a long career that I mainly forget what I've done, but I negotiated all the contracts for Pinocchio, if you will, that was produced. Is Coming to America the original? Is that a fantasy movie? The Golden Child, is that a fantasy movie? Yeah, and by the way, I may have negotiated contracts, and ultimately the film wasn't made. But as I sit here now, those are the only ones that come to pass. If I was looking at my resume or going through my files, I might think of others. But there isn't a deal that I haven't made.
And I think you also testified in response to Mr. Nadelhaft's questions that you have negotiated some deals for Chris Pratt and Paul Rudd. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes, these are for a streaming series.
Do you happen to know if both of those actors have played Marvel superheroes?
I believe they have, but don't quote me because, that's not my genre.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Marks. You can, you're free to stay in the courtroom or you can leave, okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Your next witness.